There was an interview a few days ago and JoJo says Chris is the best man and a gorgeous boy. Girl, he's not a boy. He is 10 years your senior and he's in his 30s. Welcome back, you guys, to Gasp, the podcast for the gays, the girls, and especially the gay girls. Today we're talking about a possibly former gay girl. Just kidding. I think she's still pretty gay. JoJo Siwa. And I'm wearing pink because of her today. Specifically, we're going to be talking about the straightification of JoJo Siwa. JoJo Siwa is back on the front burner of media attention. This time, not because of another lesbian scandal or chaotic music video, but because of a possible rumored boyfriend. JoJo Siwa, known as a child dance star, singer, and internet personality, created a brand for herself, right, through her loud, colorful aesthetic, and was usually always sporting a bow. This is how we know her, right? She then made headlines a few years ago when she came out as a lesbian and even found herself in a lesbian love triangle drama. It was like all over TikTok. I'm sure you guys remember it. But recently, after appearing on Celebrity Big Brother, JoJo is now facing cheating allegations. She changed her sexuality to queer from lesbian. She broke up with her partner and is rumored to be dating fellow contestant Chris Hughes. And suddenly, the straighties are like obsessed with this and now seem to be delighted with JoJo Siwa, which they haven't been over the last few years because she's been very outwardly gay, right? So we're going to dig into this whole controversy and why the gays are mad and why the straights are so happy about this. So very quickly before we go into the bulk of the episode, as always, just a few updates. My Pride merch line is out. You can see that on my Printify pop-up store or my Etsy store. That will be in the link in wherever this episode is posted or in the link in my TikTok bio. And if you are a Patreon member, and if you're not a Patreon member yet, this is a great time to join as a paid subscriber because all my paid subscribers, aka number one Gaspers, along with getting bonus episodes, early episodes, and just like all the bonus content that I give, you will also have access to a Pride merch giveaway or a Pride merch discount. I've been working on the Pride discount and I don't know why it's so difficult for me to figure out how to do. So I might just do a giveaway. So you could get free merch or discounted merch. So join my Patreon and you can get access to all those things. And speaking of, also Patreon members get shout outs. So shout out to my number one Gasper, Carolyn W. Thank you so much for listening. My grandma's name was Carolyn, so I love your name. All right, boring stuff. Oh, also, guys, I'm recording this the day after the AMAs. I did not watch it because I was on a plane. However, I was really stressed that I was going to miss it because, we all fucking thought Taylor Swift would be there and release something. And I'm genuinely so confused. What's happening? And honestly, I was very much convinced that something was happening because her fucking website spelled out AMAs. 26 was everywhere. I'll make some TikToks on this, but genuinely, I'm at a loss for words. And I feel like she's baiting us and I'm so scared. Okay, let's get into it. Also, I'm realizing this is my last episode before Pride Month starts, which is very exciting. I feel like Pride this year is just going to be so necessary since at least America is in a downward homophobic spiral. So I feel like it's really necessary time. Okay, let's first just get into JoJo Siwa's fame to catch up some people if you're not aware of how JoJo Siwa is famous. Because honestly, I didn't really know. And I didn't even know that she was on Dance Moms. I gotta be honest. I just thought she was this crazy kid. Okay, so let's talk about her rise to fame, right? So her full name is Joelle Siwa. She was actually born in literally 2003. So she's only 22 fucking years old. And she actually just turned 22. So newly 22. She's a dancer, singer, actress, and internet personality. And in 2013, this is kind of how she got into the spotlight. She was the youngest contestant and finalist on the Dance Moms spinoff, Abby's Ultimate Dance Competition. And that got her into Dance Moms. So in 2015, she began appearing on the Dance Moms show. Because that show was so huge and big, it just pushed her into celebritydom. And then in 2016, she released her songs Boomerang, that was apparently against like bullying, and I Can Make You Dance, slay. So at this point, right, she's like a child star and her audience is children. In 2016, she also released a line of hair bows because her whole thing was like bows and ponytails and like colors and like, right? Okay. So, and actually it makes kind of a good transition into being gay. Like it kind of makes sense. Like she's so like loud with her clothing and so colorful. Like it's rainbow gay. Okay. Then in 2017, she signed with Nickelodeon. And at this point she like really took off. And actually did not know this either. In 2020, she was on Time's 100 most influential people in the world list. That's kind of crazy. Yeah. And then in 2021, she did this show called Siwa's Dance Pop Revolution. And I don't really know much about the show, but I think it's her and her mom like training this dance group, this young kids dance group to be like really famous and stuff. It's giving Abby Lee, right? That's kind of the vibe. And according to Wikipedia, I did not follow this controversy. So if you guys have, give me the deets. But apparently in 2024, Siwa and her mother, this is a quote from Wikipedia, Siwa and her mother were alleged to have mistreated members of XOMG Pop, which is apparently the group from Siwa's Dance Pop Revolution, by subjecting members to grueling rehearsal schedules that left little time for school and promoting an unhealthy competitive working environment. That doesn't surprise me. But it's also funny because it's like, that's what dance moms did. Then in 2021, I think this is like really when I felt that she was pushed into adult entertainment and pop culture as much as she was a part of like kids pop culture, right? Where like she was really getting big. In 2021, she was the contestant on Dancing with the Stars, and she, I think, like almost won. Okay, I just looked it up. She was in second place. Slay. And she did really well. She was a part of the first same-sex pairing in the show's history, which great. And then 2022 and 2024, she was a judge on So You Think You Can Dance. And then in 2024, literally last year, this is when she came out with Karma. This was like her quote rebrand to this like tougher image, right? She was like kind of pulling a Miley Cyrus, except not at all. And her rebrand was just kind of like wearing like leather. And she released Karma as her first like adult single. She also got backlash during this time because she said that she created a new genre called gay pop. And then there was a lot of fucking backlash against that because like you didn't invent gay pop. Like gay pop is pop. I mean, there's like so much to say about that, but she's had a lot of controversies, right? Like since the beginning of her career, she's been a part of controversies. She's been a part of dating controversies regarding her show, what she says about her rebrand, just in general, kind of like her like voice is like, some would say annoying. I would perhaps agree. Like she's very intense, energetic, and I think a lot of it is she's like been used to the spotlight since she was so young that I feel like she like feels the need to curate this like exuberant, crazy personality. You know what I mean? And then that kind of goes into Big Brother and that controversy because a lot of people are like saying that she almost like found herself and like was away from the cameras and like found her voice, and it's like a softer one. We will get into all of that. But it's also ironic because like it's a TV show. There are cameras. Why would this be her? Why would this have been her escape away from publicity? I mean, maybe because she's not on social media. I don't know. Anyways, she's had a lot of controversies, and a lot of it is also regarding her sexuality. So let's get into that. Okay, so in 2021, she came out as just like in general being a part of the LGBTQ community. And then later she ended up identifying as a lesbian. As you can presume, if you guys are not like aware of, what happened during this time, people were not happy about it because there's a lot of homophobes, and in general because she was like a child star and a lot of her fans were children, everyone was like, oh my god, you're like pushing your agenda on children. She was met with a lot of backlash around that, and at this point kind of became like a queer icon. And I'm gonna give her credit, like this was super brave when you're like, you come from Nickelodeon, you come from being a young child star, you know that people are going to be so pissed about this because like you sell dolls and like you make music for kids. Like people are going to fucking hate that because this idea that gay people are groomed children. So the fact that she made it such a big part of like her career and her personality, her public persona of being gay and like being very outwardly gay, like I think that's amazing and really good of her to do. I do have some other issues that we will talk about later. So here's her dating history and just like the most public ones. Okay. So she dated this dude named Mark Bontempo, irrelevant, I think. And like, this is kind of like right before she came out. And then kind of like her most significant girlfriend that I feel like any of us who were like on lesbian TikTok like in 2020, 2021, 2022 were aware of her dating Kylie Prue. She met her on a cruise, which is just the most fucking lesbian thing ever. And her and Kylie were on and off for a while. And this is where like a lot of the lesbian love triangle drama stems from. After Kylie, she briefly dated this girl named Katie Mills. And then after Katie, she dated Avery Cyrus. Avery Cyrus is a lesbian TikToker. Right? She's like a big part of like all of the lesbian TikTok drama. And I don't know if you guys remember, but like a few years ago, kind of the whole Avery Cyrus, Soph, JoJo Siwa stuff, that was at the root of like what people called the lesbian apocalypse. And like all of these couples were breaking up and it was like crazy. I think this was also during like the whole Becky and Fletcher, like Becky's so hot, Shannon Beveridge drama. It was a crazy time to be a lesbian on the internet, which is funny because it's like was literally 2 years ago, but it feels like forever ago or 3 years ago. Time isn't real. So the whole lesbian love triangle stuff was that after Katie Mills, she dated Avery Cyrus, and Avery Cyrus was dating Soph, also a TikToker. And apparently, like allegedly, Avery broke up with Soph for JoJo for clout. Right? That's kind of like what JoJo alleges. Allegedly, JoJo was still seeing Kylie and like there was just a lot of drama. Like now she's very much a part of this like lesbian internet entertainment community. Okay, then after the whole Avery thing, she dated Dakayla Wilson, who was a contestant on So You Think You Can Dance, and JoJo was a judge during this season. So like I don't understand how that's not a conflict and like unprofessional, but they dated. And then after Dakayla, JoJo dated Kath Epps, who's non-binary. And this is then when we get into the whole Big Brother controversy shit show. Okay, so I do have after Kath Chris Hughes ? Because it's like they haven't actually confirmed that they're dating, but we will go into all the suspicion, right? So Celebrity Big Brother, this past April, JoJo was a contestant on Celebrity Big Brother in the UK, and it filmed and premiered in April 2025. So all this is very fresh and recent, and I feel like they need to talk about it because like every day there's another news story about like JoJo and Chris like doing some interview. It's just weird. The whole thing is strange, and the response from straights is very weird. And I think finally gay people are like calling out this behavior, because at first I was like, wow, there's a lot of conflicting opinions about like what's going on with like the JoJo Siwa situation and Chris. And then I realized like it was pretty much separated on like who was straight and who was gay. And we will go into the two different perspectives. JoJo entered Celebrity Big Brother. And by the way, JoJo was consistently booked and busy. I think there's an argument here that like her mom kind of exploited her, because like she should not be like on this many fucking shows. Like once she signed this deal with Nickelodeon, like she's been consistently doing something every single fucking month. Like she's been on a million shows, a million appearances on all these different like podcasts, and like she's consistently everywhere. And it only like brings her more controversy. And so I do think, you know, like her being consistently in the public eye, you know, she hasn't had a lot of time to like grow up and like understand who she is as a person. So I definitely think that like, you know, we need to give her grace. But at the same time, if you're representing the queer community, you have to be careful about like what you say. So when she went on this show in April of this year, she was still in a relationship with Kath. Okay. She had no access to social media during the filming of the show, so she has no idea what people are thinking. And honestly, I wonder if that would have even affected her actions like at all. And so the whole show is like a strategic and interpersonal game show, right? So a lot of people were saying maybe her, getting close to Chris Hughes is PR or like for the strategy of the game. And I think there's something to that argument. During the course of the show, fans and also people not even watching the show, I didn't even really watch the show. I was just watching on TikTok because like all of these clips were just posted immediately. We all watched as literally JoJo got closer and closer to Chris Hughes, which is weird in 3 ways. 1, there might even be 4. 1, Chris is 32 fucking years old. And JoJo at the time is 21. 10 years difference isn't weird, out of context, but the context is that she's so fucking young. 21 is so young. So that's weird. 2, at this point, she's a lesbian. So that's confusing. 3, he seems very gay to me. 4, she's in a fucking relationship. So there are 4 reasons. The whole thing was very weird and very confusing. And it led to like the perfect storm of like internet buzz because we're all like, what the fuck is going on? There's a lot of debate over what is considered cheating, what is not considered cheating. I think you can make the argument that it wasn't cheating, but like it was emotional cheating because the vulnerable conversations JoJo was having with Chris is like something that like, it's just like icky, okay? It definitely crossed lines, okay? During the show, because they're all kind of sleeping together, they would sleep in the same bed, like hold hands, they would cuddle together, they'd have lots of physical touch, and they're pretty much inseparable the entire time. They passed notes to each other. JoJo cried to him, and like in this like really gross scene, he's like wiping her tears. Like they have so much physical touch with each other. It is beyond friends. Like that is not friends. It was like this physical attraction, right? There's a debate over if there was a forehead kiss in the hot tub. For me, I don't really think it changes anything because like the things that they're already doing was crossing lines. Like they were like spooning each other in the bed. Like it's crazy. Another reminder, Chris Hughes is fucking 32 when this is happening and JoJo is 21. So even if she wasn't a lesbian when this was filmed, and even if she wasn't in a relationship, it's just fucking weird. He also just gives gay to me. Like Lavender relationship, I do think that they are like attracted to each other. I don't think that like he is like fully gay ? Like maybe they are both just queer. I kind of do think they are both attracted to each other. Have you guys seen that TikTok couple and it's like this masked girl and this more like femme guy and they're dating and like she looks like a masked lesbian, right? And he looks like a more femme gay man and they like work together because they're both attracted, like the girl's attracted to the femininity of the guy and the guy's attracted to the masculinity of the girl. I can actually see that making sense for them because Chris Hughes gives gay and JoJo Siwa is gay and I can almost see it working out. The issue is the age difference. She was in a relationship and more things. Okay, so during the show, she comes out as queer, JoJo. JoJo says that she's been thinking about it and she's like feeling like she's not actually a lesbian and she's changing letters and that she's actually queer, which is super valid. You're allowed to figure out your sexuality and you're allowed to realize that your sexuality has changed, right? Or that it wasn't what you thought it was before, okay? Pin in that. After the show wraps, JoJo's partner, Kath, literally flies to London to greet JoJo after the fucking show. And at this point, Kath says, okay, the things are being played up for the show. And like, obviously JoJo's figuring out stuff about herself, but it doesn't mean that like they're not going to be together. But JoJo immediately breaks up with them and apparently says it has nothing to do with Chris and remains firm after the show that she didn't cheat and she didn't break up with Kath for Chris, right? So they break up and JoJo goes a bunch of these interviews, same with Chris. They keep saying like, we didn't do anything, we didn't cheat. And JoJo's like, there was many reasons that I broke up with my partner and none of them have to do with Chris. And it's like, at this point, dude, like it would just be easier if she just said what she was doing because we all saw it. It's just gaslighting at its finest. And like, you can't say that there was no reason that Chris made you break up with them. It's just ridiculous. And also like, obviously JoJo realized that she was queer because she was falling for Chris. What's annoying about it is that she's acting like Chris has no impact on it. And he absolutely did. So JoJo, after the show, went on the Vile Files, Nick Vile's podcast, and talked about like why she now identifies as queer instead of a lesbian. But she got a lot of backlash from the queer community about what she said, and I do have to agree, because I think it's irresponsible what she said. So she talks about her sexuality, and this is her quote, "Sexuality is fluid, gender identity is fluid. It could be one thing today and one thing tomorrow." Do I think that she had good intentions when she said that? Yes. And I do think she is talking about her own experience, right? And like, I understand what she's saying in the intention, right? Sexuality can be fluid. Here's the issue. It's fluid for her. She needs to like own up to the fact that her sexuality is not what she thought it was, and that she didn't know who she really was, and that she's actually queer, or that she identifies as like being fluid, which is very valid. All these things are very valid, right? The issue is saying that sexuality is fluid. It could be one thing today and one thing tomorrow. You know what that gives? It gives conservatives being like, oh, you don't have a real identity because it just blows with the wind. Like, that is not the case for every queer person. And especially when there's this whole homophobic rhetoric of like, oh, I can change a lesbian, and like a lesbian just needs to meet one man and it'll change, and they actually just need to meet the right guy. That's the danger of this statement. And like, when you are representing the queer community, you can't just be throwing out statements that sexuality is one thing and then sexuality could change and sexuality is always fluid. And like, I understand that's not what she meant, but like, when she had backlash from that, she should have just owned up to it. And I understand she gets a lot of like pointless hate sometimes, but she has to realize like what is ridiculous hate and unnecessary hate to comment on, and then what is like valid criticism from the queer community. It is totally fair that she now realizes that she's queer, but you cannot say that sexuality is fluid. Sexuality can be fluid. Like, to say it could be one thing today and one thing tomorrow is literally insane. That's literally what conservatives say. And again, I understand the intention, but when you have such a huge platform, you have to be careful what you say, especially when you're feeding into this idea that like lesbians aren't even real. And I know that's not what she means, but like, guess how it was taken? It was taken like that. Now people are like, oh my gosh, like, look, JoJo found herself a man. Like, it's this idea that every lesbian, you know, isn't really a lesbian, and that it's fluid, and that lesbians the next day may just be queer, or they might just be straight, and it can just blow with the wind. And for a lot of lesbians, that is not how they feel. And that is not how a lot of people in the queer community feel. So like, when you are talking about your experience and you have a public platform and you are queer, you just have to be so careful about what you say. You really do. And I know that's annoying, but like, you have to, when we live in this homophobic society that like prays and hopes that these like gay people can be changed, and that, you know, they just need to find the right man. It's just dangerous and irresponsible. Okay. So after all of this, during JoJo's 22nd birthday trip, which now they're 10 years apart in age, they go on a trip, JoJo and Chris, and they're spotted kissing. At this point, they're obviously something sexual or romantic happening between them, which like, no fucking duh. We all thought that. And the gaslighting is absolutely ridiculous of her a month before telling her partner that she broke up with them because of issues in their relationship. And then a month later that they're kissing. Come on. It's like, just own up to it. Just be like, I realized I had feelings for someone else and I ended the relationship before things got too far, right? But it's like, you're pretending like you just broke up with them for no other reason. Both of them at this point consistently have been flooding social media and talking about the other person with like such lovey-dovey terms. It's like, only a month after JoJo was dating fully someone else. And obviously this is a pattern now of like JoJo going back and forth from a bunch of different people, breaking up, then going back with her ex. And like, she needs like to slow down. And they've been like spotted like hugging, holding hands, like JoJo kissing Chris's shoulder, like fully fledged in a relationship. I don't know what the fucking term they're using, but like, it's something romantic and sexual because they're fucking kissing. Okay. So I don't know how she's possibly denying this still, because there was an interview literally yesterday, and JoJo was asked if her and Chris were in a relationship, and she's still saying like, oh, like I'm not gonna say anything, like haha, like no. So she's still not really saying that they're in a relationship, and I don't know what they're like waiting for, because it's not like they're staying off social media and like trying to stay away from paparazzi. Like they're fine with it being open, but not in the interviews. And I think at this point, I see the argument for PR, right? You're like egging it on with all these interviews, but you're not really telling the truth. So it's like, I would almost appreciate if she was just telling the fucking truth. There was an interview a few days ago, and JoJo says Chris is the best man and a gorgeous boy. Girl, he's not a boy. He is 10 years your senior, and he's in his 30s, and it's gross. It's just so much media and PR, and this interview I saw of them, they're talking about each other, but they're both calling into this interview, and it's just giving PR media training. It's oversaturated, and it's weird because they're pretending like they're not in a relationship, but they are. It's giving lavender marriage, but opposite, because they're public about it. And the whole thing is so strange. And the strangest part about all of this is the fact that straight people are like obsessed with it. And that's what makes her statement so dangerous. Like that sexuality can change, right? Because straight people now are glomming onto this story and they're like obsessed with it. I've noticed that there's a clear split in the reception of, Chris and JoJo and this whole media frenzy surrounding their quote relationship. And it's split between gay people, the gay community, and straight people. And it's super strange, like why straight people are so obsessed about this, because even if they were two straight people, they're still cheating. But it's almost like they don't care if there's potential cheating, because it pushes the idea that like everyone can turn straight for a good man. It's fucking gross and disgusting. And like, why do you all of a sudden love JoJo? It's because she's maybe with a man. It's so weird. So let's talk about the gay perspective and then the straight perspective on this whole controversy. And when I say straightification, I don't mean that like JoJo is all of a sudden like straight. I just mean like she's being pushed into this straight role and she's not really helping herself. So here's the gay perspective. She cheated on her partner, probably, or at least crossed some lines, right? And like queerness is valid and you can change your identity. I've seen a lot of queer people talking about this. Like this is fair. And also like I've seen a lot of queer people like, saying the same thing I'm saying, which is like her queerness is valid and like you can change your identity. And she's young, obviously, and figuring out herself, but queerness is not fluid for everyone. And saying that is so fucking dangerous. She should have said it's fluid for me. Because unfortunately, whether she likes it or not, and she needs to be aware of this, she is kind of a gay spokesperson, especially for people who are younger, maybe also figuring out their sexualities. So it's like you do have to think about what you're saying when you talk about queerness and when you have an audience that is not super educated about queer issues. And then also the gay perspective is like, and again, the gay perspective is also my perspective. It's weird that people are okay with her cheating and crossing these lines when it's for a man. Because I wonder if people would feel that way and like feel okay with her doing all of this if she was dating a man. I highly doubt it. It feels like they don't actually respect her non-binary partner, and it's almost like she's coming true to who she's always been, which is someone who needs to be with a man. It's gross. Again, like she can date whoever she wants. It's just the like narrative around it is getting really icky. It's just also weird that people are obsessing over this new relationship and liking her now more because she's with a man. Like I didn't see any of this press when she was dating any of the last few girlfriends. Why is it now because she's with this guy? It's almost like, oh, this wholesome new personality that she has now that she's with a man. It's so weird. Like I've seen like interviewers being like, oh my God, I'm like so obsessed with you two. Like why? Because it's like feeding into this narrative that, oh my God, a man changed her. Okay, here's the straight perspective. And like, okay, when I say straight perspective and gay perspective, blah, 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 it doesn't mean that I think this is everyone's perspective. I just think this is the overwhelmingly like straight narrative on the internet, okay? This perspective is that she's young and she didn't know herself before, right? And being in the spotlight confused her and made her think that she was a lesbian. This is straight up what I'm seeing on the internet. Finally, she's understanding herself. And, you know, like the show like took her away from social media and made her realize like who she always was, which is someone who's not a lesbian. And again, it's like the actuality of the situation is not harmful. I mean, the potential cheating is. It's the like fact that the narrative is being praised. And the fact that like it's seen as the good narrative of her finally being with a man. And like now she's better and like truly herself. And she wasn't before when she was with not a man, right? That like she was just so confused. Like I've seen all these comments like, poor girl, she was so confused. It's giving so gross and so homophobic. And there's so many people like just obsessing over her and Chris. I just don't understand what the obsession is. She was literally dating someone a month ago. Does no one give a fuck that she was like cheating on her partner? Like, why is this so cute? It's so confusing to me. Like, why are people obsessing over it? And I think we all know the answer. People want to see her with a man. And it's like heartwarming for them. It's just gross. I've also seen an alarming amount of comments and posts talking about how she's like finally leaning into her like soft feminine side now that she's like with a man. And like this is who she needs to be and become, is like this more feminine version of herself, someone who's more soft-spoken. And there's people being like, oh my God, you can even see how she's talking in interviews, like more like softer, and like she seems more relaxed and like happy now that she's like with a man that has more of the strong side and she doesn't have to be strong. It's so trad wife, and this is, you know, something we've been seeing over the last few years. Penetration of trad wife and like misogyny, and it's being hidden by statements like, oh my God, feminine aura and like shit like that, and makes it seem like it's like spiritual or like stars or like woo woo when it's not woo woo and it's just fucking misogyny. And it's like, no, you're not necessarily leaning into your femininity. You are letting a man take control. It's this idea that like you should be leaning into your feminine side, and that like it makes you more relaxed and happier to like let go of this feisty side of yourself. And that JoJo is finally, you know, feeling like her true self now that she's with a man. It's fucking disgusting. Also, why are so many straight people calling her Joelle? As if like JoJo was this like gay alter ego, but her true self is this straight girl named Joelle. It's so weird. Like, when did she call herself Joelle? I've never seen so many straight people be so obsessed with a couple that was born out of cheating and a 10-year age difference. Why do you like it so much? And I feel like all the gays are like, wait. What is going on right now? Time will tell with what the hell happens with them. At this point, I would really appreciate if she just like said the truth and was like, you know, I realized that I was into men and I'm actually queer because of Chris. Like, I wish she would just say that. But instead, she's like, oh my God, sexuality can change any day. And I also wish she would just say, no, I meant that for me. Because that statement did so much harm. And straight people fucking ran with that. And when you are a celebrity, you don't, I understand like it's easy to make mistakes and like you say a lot of public things. Just correct yourself. Because it's so weird how like a gay icon deeply entrenched in like lesbian internet drama is the point of focus for all of these straight people to be obsessed over. And it's interestingly enough happening at a time where homophobia is on the rise, sexism is on the rise. You know, corporate sponsors are pulling out of pride. It's not cool to be gay anymore. And it's a creepy movement that's pushing us back towards the 1950s. And I fucking hate it. Let me know what you guys think about this situation. I think it's so interesting and confusing and wild. And like, I mean, it's objectively insane to be a lesbian, go into the show with your partner and leave queer and dating a man. That's pretty wild. And then have all these straight people so happy for you. And they don't care that he's 32 and you're 22 and you were dating someone before. It's okay because it's with a man. All's fair in love and war. All's fair in straight love and war, apparently. Anyways, I hope you guys have an amazing week. Next week is Pride. So if you still need Pride merch, go check out my merch website. It's linked everywhere in my bio, in this video, in this podcast, wherever you find it. And then reminder to join my Patreon for bonus content, shout outs, discounts, perhaps a giveaway, everything under the sun. Okay, love you guys. See you next week.